Hello and welcome to the Failure Effect. Today we're hanging out with Sanaipei Tande, who, just before we started recording, was telling me how she learned how to put herself first. Now, this has something to do, first of all, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I was waiting for that. I was just like, oh my God, what's happening here? Thank you, where you are.
All right. Now, so you were just saying you learned to put yourself 1st after your experience with your last gig. And I know there's a lot of publicity about that and why
Yes.
you left. So please tell us what you left and how you came about this lesson.
Well, reason I left was chronic fatigue.
Mm-hmm.
And I know there were a lot of rumors about, oh, maybe she's not being paid enough, or maybe she got a better gig. But the honest truth, and I'll say it again, it was chronic fatigue. I was very tired. I don't know if you've ever been in production when it comes to a show, and especially a daily show. There's certain timelines that you must meet.
Yeah.
And sometimes even if you're tired, you're told, but we need this episode in to edit because, the client is waiting, et cetera, et cetera. And I think my biggest problem or two biggest problems that I have is that I'm very accommodating and I'm a stickler for rules and authority. And so when authority tells me you have to do this because we have to move forward, I end up doing it. It doesn't matter how mad I am. And I can tell you for sure, sometimes when I'd act Kina, when you'd see me mad, it was genuine. Like I was really, really upset at being forced to do things even when I'm tired.
Okay.
I don't want to use the word forced, actually. Let me take that back. Sometimes it's just, well, but Sana, we need to do this and we need to do that. And I'm like, okay, if I understand production properly, it means that if they say they need this episode in edit, then I have to make sure that I do it, no matter how pissed off I am or how tired I am.
Right.
And so for me, that was from 2019 up until 2023 when I actually quit the show. Like I said, I'm a stickler for authority. And so when people tell me that, you have to do this, then I do it and I do it and I do it until I think it's actually God who said, you know what, if this girl will not remove herself from here, I will have to remove her.
Okay.
So it was actually chronic fatigue. I was very badly off in January. And if people watch the last couple of episodes that I did, if they were avid followers of the show, they could actually tell that, hey, this mama is not okay.
Right.
I would deliver, but you could actually see me deteriorating on screen. And so, I mean, I've done that for quite a number of jobs that I've had.
Okay.
I have burnout and I'm still there. I'm still there just pushing on because I understand the production side of things more than I understand my body or think about my body.
Okay.
And so when this completely shut down, I was like, okay, so what's the lesson here? What am I learning?
Right.
And then I realized that your job has to complement who you are and your lifestyle. It cannot be job first and then you.
Right.
You will. I mean, I've heard of people who've actually just collapsed and died at their jobs.
Wow.
Is it ever that serious? Yeah. But it took me to be removed from the job by being sick to actually realize that, hey, if I'm tired, I'm tired and I've got to take a break. And I've got to understand that as much as there's authority and timelines, you also have to think about yourself. And I think I mentioned this to you before. There's a cousin of mine who told me, rest before you have to. It was so profound for me when she said that because I was like, no, but I thought people rest when they need to. But by the time you're needing to, things are really thick.
So you were unwell in hospital at some point?
In January, I remember because we resumed jobos like we're students in school. January 3rd, we were back there. And considering the fact that I'm also a musician, then you've got your acting gig and then you've got your shows over the weekend. And so at this time, 2022 in December, I had a show at Safari Park, 31st. And so there was rehearsals and all those things. And I remember after finishing the show on the 1st, I slept the whole day. And this was not fatigue from the show. This was fatigue from Kina.
Yeah.
Not from the performance. And I slept the whole day till about 5 p.m. Then went back home. And then I had the second, which was the only day to really be myself. And the third, I was back on set.
Right.
And you're talking about waking up at 4:30 in the morning. You've been doing that since 2019 to be able to be at work by 6:30.
Yeah.
And I did the third and the fourth and the fifth. And on the fifth, I went back home and my mom actually told me, you're actually losing weight on a daily basis. I wasn't eating, I couldn't breathe right, like I was just tired.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it in December, because I was very close to moving to my own house, that I have built in Matasia. In December, I actually packed my bags. I was living in Westlands, and I said, you know what? I cannot do this by myself because I'm actually very worried about my thoughts and my
Right.
feelings at the time. And so I packed my stuff and I went home and I stayed with my parents for that 1 month until I was better. So my parents were seeing me every day.
Right.
And my mom was like, you cannot continue like this. You're not going to go to work tomorrow. It was an order. It was not even those ones of, so mommy, I think, no, you're not going to work. You're going to go to hospital. And so, yes, I went to hospital and I was given 7 days rest. With production, that doesn't make sense. You cannot take 7 days off, especially as the main character. But then I didn't go back because then I had to do a checkup. And after I did a checkup, then the doctors were like, you need 21 days. That means production had to move on.
Right.
And so they had to find a replacement.
Okay.
Yeah. But I had already handed in my resignation for season 5, which is what was starting in February 2023. I realized that I couldn't do it. If they weren't going to give me a break, then kind of had to stop.
So, what was it that suffered while you were doing this tough, while you're on this tough work schedule? Because I'm pretty sure you had no time for
anything.
Yeah.
I had no time for anything. Everything suffered. My relationships with my friends. I mean, I have some of my really good friends who live within, like in the country, but I wouldn't see them for like 7-8 months.
Yeah.
Because I was tired all the time. You're working Monday through to Saturday. If somebody even tells you, let's have lunch on Sunday, you're like, this is my only day to rest, because you've already seen the schedule for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and you're like, gosh, I have like 12 scenes. I have to read all these scenes, and then I have to read Tuesday's scenes. And you start to kind of like move away from people.
Yeah.
So friendships suffered. My music career suffered.
Okay.
Like the last time I released an EP was 2021. And that was like 2021 June. I lost creativity completely. I couldn't think of a theme, an idea, just any issue to write about. You'd probably find like your first verse, and then after that you have no chorus, you have nothing. The one thing that didn't suffer though is my relationship with my family, because for me that's number one. It's the one thing that I don't compromise on, and so I always found time for famo and whatever. But friendships, dating, your other careers.
Yeah.
Nothing was working.
Okay.
Nothing was working. You always just wanted to sleep. You couldn't go for movies. You couldn't go for lunches. You couldn't travel. You couldn't. And I don't want to specifically say that it was just the Kina production. I think this happens in a lot of productions. And you've seen quite a number of people who actually just resign and say, it's not complementing my lifestyle. It's actually making me choose either you want to act or you want to live.
Yeah.
So many things suffered. Even my alone time. I didn't have alone time. I want to go for a massage today. It was always, you leave Jobo, you're reading scripts, among your other domestic chores that you have to do. You have to cook, you have to clean, you have to go to the market, you have to, just have time for your family, you have to
shop.
Yeah, so many things suffered. But like I say, bottom line is I don't want to completely say that it's just the Kina production. It's a lot of productions, especially if you're a main cast. For a show that happens every day, that it can be a bit difficult.
Because you were carrying the weight of the show, like you're in literally every scene, which means you were there every day. I've seen a lot of my friends in the acting business have days off because they're not necessary. But you're holding it together.
It was a lot. Like, I mean, I can tell you, even if on the show, you hear that so Nana Tandala has gone on a trip, for example. Even if it says it's 10 episodes of the season, it really doesn't translate to 10 weeks. It doesn't. It could be 1 week and then the next week you're back, because we have to shoot ahead to keep ahead of time. Yeah.
Oh,
so there was really not much rest.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you wrote your resignation, what was your state of mind? Were you scared? Were you thinking what is in the future? Or were you just focused on getting some rest and reclaiming yourself?
it's rather unfortunate that I have to say that I was worried about, so what happens next for this production?
Okay.
I was worried about even taking time. Like the first time the doctor gave me 7 days, I was like, you're not understanding.
Yeah.
Production doesn't work like this. If you give me 7 days, that is, oh my God, that's like 5 episodes a week. You know, we've lost so much time. So I was still thinking about the production and how it's going to impact the people who are shooting. But then I was also tired. I was very tired when I was writing that email. I was done. Like, you could not convince me to continue.
Okay.
If you were not going to give me a break, you could not convince me. I was mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically worn out. There was no convincing me to continue with season 5. If you could not tell me there's going to be like a month of rest, there was no way. So yeah.
So my assumption is that when you're in that state of mind, you don't even have the space to worry about where your income is coming from. You're just like, I just need some time to chill.
Yeah, I wasn't worried about that. But I mean, I'm very grateful and I'm very thankful for, Famo that actually told me, by the way, Sana, you need to plan yourself really early. And so just the fact that I had built my house kind of took off that burden of thinking, gosh, if I quit my job now, how am I going to pay rent? How am I going to pay the bills? You can figure out bills, but rent, it becomes kind of difficult. So that kind of helped me just feel a bit more relaxed that, okay, so I'm not going to have a job, but I'm okay with rent. I mean, I'm okay with the fact that I have a house. And you've got your other careers going on. You've got your music going on. All you need to do is sit in your very comfortable house and write your songs and be out there. Yeah.
Right. So you have come prepared to this sort of not an jobless phase of your life, but
Thank you. It's not fun.
No, I know, but my assumption is that you must have had experiences before that prepared you for what the place where you are in your life right now. We're gonna get to that in a minute, right? So you came prepared for this situation. And I think my question right now is, what brought you to the point where you understood if you're going through a period of no income, these are the basics you need to have in place? Now, you told me when we first spoke that this is because you learned how important it is to be careful what you put in your head. So this is a manifestation thing, and it has an impact on where you are right now. So tell us what happened.
Well, the first time I actually came into realization of what manifestation can do was when I was working at Nation. So here we are. This is 2013. I resigned from my job at KISS in 2012. And I survived, by the way.
Okay.
So here we are, 2013, got a job, did the drive show with Quach. And then I experienced the first batch of people being fired.
Right.
And then I was taken to mid-morning. I was supposed to be sitting in for Sheila Mwanyega. And then, when she came back, clients were like, we kind of like having Sanaipei on the show. Of course, this was not public knowledge. It was something that I was told later.
Yeah.
And they were like, we'd like to continue with the mid-morning show. And we continued. But in that time, I felt we were very directionless at Nation. I can't sit here and tell you whose fault it was.
Okay.
Because I think I've explained this before, that you give me a job, I do my job. I'm not concerned about who owns the company, who has done what kind of dealings or whatever. At the end of the day, I come, I do my job, I go home. Yeah. Which is probably not a good thing. I've been told that. Okay. I keep being told that, you must know who has started the business. You must know who has made a wrong kind of deal with somebody that's going to cost you your job. But for me, at the end of the day, I come, I do my job, I go home. That the rest of that stuff doesn't concern me.
Right.
So I realized that we had no direction at Nation with regards to the music. And I think I mentioned this before. 1 minute you're playing Sina Makosa by Cool James.
Yeah.
And then the other minute you're playing Chris Brown. These girls ain't loyal. And you're like, okay, wait. What is the identity of this station?
Yeah.
What is the identity of this particular show? So one minute we have the breakfast show sounding like a BBC kind of, conversation where you have politicians coming in and it's serious issues. And then you've got the mid-morning show that's Sanaipei and Obina, and we're half the time laughing
Right.
at very mediocre, ridiculous things. And then you've got the drive show that tries to address certain issues that are going on in the country. They touch on a little bit of breakfast, and then they have their banter like mid-morning. And then you've got the night show that just does completely the opposite.
Right.
And then the music wasn't making sense. Who are we catering to? Are we catering to young adults or the wazes or what we were 19, 18? What are we doing? So at that time, I was already tired. I was really tired because I had no idea what we are even supposed to talk about. Like if you come to work and you're prepping, what are we prepping for?
Yeah.
Like what kind of conversation can we have that works for our show but still touches on what breakfast did and the whole idea of the station. So I was tired already. Other than the fact that, yes, this might sound very trivial, but I was so tired of driving into town. I was so tired.
Oh my God.
I
You and me
was,
both.
I mean, there's no parking.
Yeah.
Okay. Obviously, if you're starting your show at 10,
Yeah.
by the time you get to town, parking is done.
Yes.
And I remember we used to park near the mosque, and you'd have to give your car keys
To a chokora.
to a chokora.
Yeah.
And you don't know, you might come out and your car is gone.
Yeah.
So you just had to have that trust because, okay, so maybe we didn't have this policy at Nation where you had to come an hour before your show. So sometimes you're parking your car at like 9:45.
Whoa.
And there's only the news and then 1-2 songs and you have to start talking. So you're thinking, just give the keys. If you come out and there's no car, that's okay.
Yeah.
So there are so many things that contributed to that lack of being satisfied with what you were doing. And then, so I lived on Raptor Road at the time. And sometimes I'd sit on the balcony at like 6:00 having my tea. And I'm like, why can't I have this life?
Yeah.
This life where I just wake up and I'm in my robe and I'm reading the newspaper. Okay, that's a lie. Maybe watching a movie and having your cup of tea.
Right.
And just being relaxed about things. And so I thought about that so much and for so long that by the time we were being let go of our jobs, I wasn't really bothered. It didn't feel like, oh my God, what am I going to do with my life? Because I knew at the back of my mind, I wanted to go. I wanted to leave. But this is one of those situations where you stick to a job because it pays the bills, yo.
True.
And it's unfortunate. If they're not concerned with the direction we're headed, why should I be?
Yeah.
It's not my company.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm doing my job and I'm doing it to the best of my ability, at least that capacity that you've been given. And at the end of the day, I get my paycheck.
Right.
And so, so I thought about it for a very long time. And then guess what?
It came true.
I sat on that balcony for a whole year from 2015 August
Wow.
up until 2016 November. But, I read, there's so many stories. Sometimes people just write their own things. And I read one story that said, so it was reported that I cried at my desk. First of all, I didn't have a desk, okay? My only desk was the microphone and, your levels and whatever. And I remember that day. So I had taken leave for a week in August 2015. And then I came back August 31st, which was a Monday.
Right.
So, I check in and guys are biting their nails. People are concerned. They are worried. They're having conversations by themselves. Look in the corner. And I'm like, Kuni, what's wrong? And they're like, wait, Sana Kuni, you don't know we're being fired? And I'm like, and so? Are we going to die? It's a job. We can get another one. We're good at what we do. But in retrospect, I understand that other people had bigger responsibilities than I did.
Yeah.
People had kids. People had school fees to pay. People had, their wives to take care of, or their husbands to take care of, families to take care of. This is the African society. You don't just earn money for yourself.
Yes.
You've got, your ngaguya and your shosho somewhere. You have relatives to send money to. So I do feel bad because I reacted the way that I did. I was like, we're not going to die.
Yeah.
But then for me, it was just me.
Yeah.
It was me and my rent and my bills. But yes, I didn't cry. Okay. I got to work. I did my show. I got a message from the GM, and he said, "Can you come and see me when you're done with your show?" And I'm like, just out of being spiteful. I
Right.
was like, because you think I don't have other things to do. You're telling me at 1, come see you at 2, because you don't think I have places to be. Anyway, eventually I did go. And it was the GM and the HR manager, and we had the finance director there. And it was, here's your letter, here's your check.
Hey.
Don't come tomorrow. Yani, the job was over that day.
What were you expected to go back to your desk and continue, or to your station?
No, so they asked me, like, after I finished
After
my
the show.
show, come and
Okay.
see us.
Okay.
So I said, okay. And as I was walking out, they actually had the audacity to tell me, you know, your show, the mid-morning show, was the highest selling show.
So why?
I'm like, you're kidding. You really want to tell me this now?
Yeah.
I'm not a salesperson. It's not my job to translate my ratings into money, but that happened. And I went into my car. Luckily, the chokora didn't take it.
Okay.
And, okay, they're not chokoras maskini. They're vijanas who are trying
Yes.
to make some money.
Yeah.
And reversed my car, and I went to Vineyard.
Okay. And
I sat there and had my shots with, some friends.
Okay.
Till about 8 p.m. and I went home.
Mhm.
I wasn't devastated. I wasn't particularly upset.
Yeah.
The next year kind of taught me that I should have been upset.
Okay.
Because it was a tough time. When I was working at Nation, I'd stopped doing karaoke. So I ended up having to go back into hosting karaoke, which is a fun job, but it's very tiring. It's very tiring to be in a lounge or a bar or a restaurant 3 days in a week.
Yeah.
You know how it is. You have to sort of indulge with your clientele, and it can take a toll, especially if you have a day job and a night job and a day job and a night job. So I went back into that. It was very difficult. Sometimes you'd go and do karaoke at a club. Nobody shows up, depending on where the club is. Sometimes you have the bartender telling you mdosi ya kuacha pesa leo, so you leave empty-handed.
Yeah.
And sometimes you probably sat at the bar and you're just thinking, but I'm being paid today, so I can have a. And then you realize you're leaving empty-handed.
Oh, wow.
So it was pretty tough. I did karaoke at clubs that I never imagined I would. Didn't quite work with my brand.
Yeah.
But I did what I had to do. And then 2016, I just packed my bags and I went back home.
Okay, so when you say you found yourself doing things that you didn't need to do and that it diluted your brand, please explain a little bit. How was this damaging for your brand?
I can give you an example. As an artist, as a musician, the one thing you need to create, or one of the many things, is desirability. People have to long to see you. They have to want to see you. They have to pay to see you. If you are in places regularly, then they're like, aye, why are you also going to see Sanaipei perform when you can see her on Tuesday at this club and Wednesday at this club? And in fact, when you see her at the club, you have more personal contact than you would when she's on stage. So that kind of it took it down, because people are asking, why would I have her here if people can see her anywhere? So that desirability kind of dissipated.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Now, you've had other lessons in terms of career, which is what I'd like to come into now, because not only have you spoken about being able to hold on to your brand, but right now, as a creative entrepreneur, what are some of the other things that you're learning? For example, we see a lot of people clout chasing these days. Is this something that you would do? Are we about to see Sanaipei break up with some random stranger?
No, Jesus, no. Okay. Clout chasing has never been my thing.
Okay.
I will attribute that to my personality. I'm not very comfortable with being talked about too much. So I shy away from doing anything that might get me in conversation a little too much. Secondly would be my upbringing. We, as much as I was taught to be a confident and outspoken person, you also don't want to throw yourself in the forefront of things where now everyone is focusing on you. I don't like focus. I think it's one of the reasons why I can't MC.
Right.
I cannot.
Okay.
Because the minute you start paying attention, I panic and I just shut down. I remember when I first came out in the group Sema. I'm not going to mention the artist's name. But this particular artist, who's very big now, had asked for us to have like a whole publicity stunt thing where we are busted at, I think it was at Kenchik or McFry somewhere in Tao, Kenyatta Avenue, and had even said, if you're called by Pulse,
Touche, I
if
see
you're
what you
called
did
by
there.
Pulse, you can say no comment.
Right.
And then for me, I can just say, oh, she's just a friend, just to get the conversation going. And I remember from that time, I must have been like 22. And I was like, absolutely not.
Okay.
It's a lie. Why am I lying about things that are not? They're not happening. If there's something happening, let it be happening. So for a very long time, I've always lived my truth. And which is why I find publicity stunts, as we call them, kiki, a very difficult thing to do. Because I will not be able to sleep at night.
Yeah.
I lied about having a relationship with somebody or being in the Maldives. I wasn't there.
Yeah.
So it doesn't go down well for me. So you find that I don't do it. I live my truth every day. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't.
Right.
I will never. Okay, they say not to say never, but I can be very confident enough to say never. I'll never choose a publicity stunt to get ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
If my music doesn't work for you, it doesn't work for you. If my movies don't work for you, they don't work for you. I don't seek validation. A lot of people seek validation.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it works for them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Publicity stunts actually work for people today because, and this is very sad to find that some corporates would engage people simply because they have visibility by virtue of the fact that they've done publicity stunts.
Yeah.
Where's the substance?
True.
Where's the decency? Where's the respect? Where's the professionalism? It's lost because everyone today just wants, how can I get my brand out there? How can I get my product out there? I'm going to use this person. They don't care about what they've done or who they've insulted or how they've disrespected themselves and other people in the public. It's just about visibility, and that's a very sad place to be.
This is true.
And sometimes I look back and I say, hey, maybe that's why I'm not as big as I should be. Because I follow... Okay. I see your face.
Thank you.
I have a yardstick of my own.
Okay.
People have yardsticks of their own for me. And there are people who believe and feel that Sanaipei is at the top of her game. But I'm very honest with myself. I know what I'm capable of, and I know what it takes to actually get there.
Okay.
And then society also knows what I need to do to get there, but then I wouldn't do that. So I know that there's a certain level that I haven't reached, but I will not clout chase.
Okay.
To get there.
Okay. That's cool.
I do need to work harder though.
Okay, which, by the way, you actually have started doing in the recent past. You've amped up your social media activity.
I have tried.
Okay. Why is that? What is inspiring you to do that?
Social media is a very tricky thing for me. Because like I mentioned, visibility. It doesn't matter what you do on social media. As long as you have visibility, then people come to you. And I can't just do anything. So I have a really hard time keeping up or being consistent with social media because I'm like, okay, so I'm posting today. What am I posting? What am I telling people? How am I educating people? I remember when I was working with Obina in 2015. 2014 is when we got together on the mid-morning show. And I hadn't joined Instagram. And I remember him telling me, oh my God, you're not on Instagram. What are you doing with your life as a celebrity? And I'm like, but what is Instagram about? I just see people posting pretty pictures and they get likes and then they get a following and then they're big. Where's the substance?
And then what after that?
What after that? What are you feeding people? How are you helping? How are you sorting out people's problems? How are you educating? And so I have a really difficult relationship with social media because I'm like, by the time I'm writing something, it has to help somebody.
Right.
Or it has to address an issue. So sometimes you'd find I'll post like a picture today, tomorrow, the day after. And sometimes I even like refrain from just having any captions because I'm like, I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
But because show business and being a celebrity calls for you remaining relevant on social media, then I post. But I don't write anything because there's nothing to write.
Right.
So I have that love-hate relationship right now. Sometimes you'll find me posting, like I haven't posted, wow. I haven't posted since I think June the 13th.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's what are we posting?
Right.
Yeah. I have no new music. I have no show that I'm doing, which is what I share publicly.
Okay.
Anything else for me is my private life. I don't share my private life.
Mm-hmm.
And I know sometimes I have fans who ask me, kwani hauna marafiki? Like when you can't post pictures with your friends. But the people I'm friends with
Mhm.
are not people who are big on social media. They
And that's
don't particularly appreciate taking pictures of us having lunch or taking pictures of us on a trip.
Mhm.
They like their private life. And
Yeah.
so, yes, I have friends. they're just not into that kind of life.
Right.
So it's a catch-22 for me, because I'm in a business that expects me to be showy and be out there.
Mhm.
But then as a personality or with my personality and with the kind of friends that I have and the people I surround myself with, it kind of draws me back.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
it's very confusing.
Yeah, I know. Well, being familiar with some of your friends, I can guarantee, yes, she does have friends. Now let's go back a little bit into the beginning of your radio career before we go into your beginning in the music business.
Okay.
And you started out at Kiss FM
Capital.
or Capital FM. So, what was the onboarding and the radio journey like? Because I know there's a lot of people out there who would probably consider becoming, a journalist and or a radio anchor and are scared. Like, what does it look like? What's the onboarding? What training do you need? What skills?
Man, radio has changed so much. Like
Okay.
I don't even think I'd go back to radio now. If I
Uh-huh.
was going to, then I would probably just have my show of my own
Okay.
on my YouTube. So first of all, music obviously came before radio.
Mm-hmm.
But then because of Sema breaking up after 6 months of being in the industry and releasing the album,
Was it just 6 months? My gosh, it felt like it was about 2 years.
we
but
did
yeah.
a lot.
Okay.
A lot of music. We were all over the place. And I think it was also the first pop group that was
Yeah.
out there really being pushed by homeboys. I must say they did a really good job there. And also the platform, Coca-Cola Popstars, that was really
Yes.
big.
Yeah.
So we did what? We won in March, and by September, we were done.
Okay, pack that one. We'll come to it.
We will. So by the time
Uh-huh.
we were done,
Yeah.
I think because I was so used to, when you're in a group, you share responsibilities.
Yeah.
Like you have discussions about what are we going to wear. Okay, so you have that white T-shirt, you have the black jeans or whatever. What do you think about this verse? Do you think we should make it more Swahili? There's more consultation. There's people you can talk to and discuss the way forward. So when Sema broke up, I found myself stranded.
Uh-huh.
I've never written a song by myself. I've never performed by myself. I don't make these decisions by myself going for an interview. When it's an interview, it's spread out. So Kevin tell us this, and Pam tell us this, and Sanaipei tell us this.
Mhm.
So it was a very stuck moment for me.
Mhm.
So then what happened is when I stopped now doing the music, Chris Kirubi, God rest his soul.
Uh-huh.
I went for an interview, still being Sanaipei because we were still hot and fresh then. And I did an interview for QZ magazine.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
you do remember this.
Yes.
Okay. And as I was doing the interview, the late Kirubi comes into the studio and he says, "See me after your interview."
Oh,
I was
we'll
like,
remember Mr.
well, first of
Kirubi.
all, let me just say, I'd already met Kirubi at Popstars, the unveiling of Popstars at Village Market.
Yes.
And, he stood on the chairs with us taking pictures. I was like, what's happening with this guy? So I was already familiar with him.
Yeah.
So anyway, so he came into the studio and he said, "See me after your interview." And I was just like, oh my God, okay. So I was trying to sneak out
Okay.
of Capital. And he saw me from the boardroom and he's like, "Come here." He didn't even call my name. He just said, "Come here." So I go into the boardroom and we sit with him and he calls Yves D'Souza immediately.
Right.
And he says, "I want you to train this girl." I'm like, "Train me in what? We haven't, do you know, he did not even discuss with me what he wants me to do.
Oh my gosh.
He just said, "I want you to train this girl."
Mhm.
And so Yves D'Souza eventually came in and we had a meeting and he was like, "It's not homework, put her there."
Okay.
And that's how I started radio.
Wow.
It was nowhere in my radar.
Okay, wait, I have questions. I have so many questions because
Shoot.
I know how difficult it is to sit in front of a microphone. This is my first time doing this,
Yeah.
and I am intimidated every day. How do you handle it? You're young, you're inexperienced. Radio is big. Capital FM is the biggest station in the country at that point in time.
Yeah.
What? How are you? How did you handle it?
Stickler for rules and authority.
Okay.
Authority said, I did.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I think I was too young at the time to say, no, 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 no. You know, like now
Yeah.
you're more vocal, you're older, you understand what you can and cannot do.
Yeah.
So you'd be able to say, I don't think that's something I'm interested in doing.
Mhm.
But at the time, the way he threw it in my face, I was
Yeah.
like, okay, we might as well. And we started and we did Hits Not Homework with Eve D'Souza and Solo.
Mhm.
And I used to do an hour with them,
Okay.
chit chat.
Mhm.
And I think that's where I got more of my experience to deal with relationship issues.
Right.
I keep saying every day, if you haven't walked the mile,
Yeah.
don't talk about it, because you can't sit here and talk about marriage when you've not been married. You don't know the dynamics of that thing.
Yeah.
From outside, yes, but from inside, you can't really say. So we used to do 7 to 8, and then after that, I'd leave and go home. So ideally, they were supposed to train me as an intern. They did, but it didn't quite work out. I keep saying this all the time. I was told that I don't have the capital accent.
Oh.
Roy, yeah. So you have to speak English like you've been in the UK.
Okay. Okay.
I'll stop. Anyway, so I mean that's how I lost out on capital.
Okay.
And then a couple of weeks after that, Shafi called me and he's like, "Wait, you know, Shafi." Shafi is really that guy. There were no pleasantries, no nothing.
Yeah.
It was like, "Wait, you still want to do radio?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'd love to." So you come, you do Keeping It Kenyan. My guy. Like, you're not even telling me, like, when does Keeping It Kenyan happen? What time is it? It's like, you just come, we'll do it. So it was, at the time, it was Shafi and Roy Karuhise who were doing Keeping It Kenyan on Saturdays. And so that's where I started.
Okay.
And then they put me on, like, I would learn with Caroline in the morning.
Caroline
Mutoko.
Okay.
Caroline Mutoko, she taught me how to do live. And, you know, I can see it now. Like, she used to use both her hands, this mouse. And I'm like, how is she coordinating all this stuff?
Like doing separate things.
She's clicking on this, she's editing a call, she's talking on the microphone, she's skipping songs or playing. And I'm like,
wow.
how am I supposed to learn all this without any journalism kind of background or whatever? Anyway, so she's like, don't worry, you'll get the hang of it. So I'll be taught live with Caroline from 9 to 10. And then Angela Ngwenyi would come in 10 to 1, I think, at the time, because Debbie Asila was doing 1 to 4. And she would teach me how to like pre-record and record your calls or record a link. I remember one time I got to work really late because I hadn't moved out, so I was still living in Matasia. And Caroline was like, if you can't be here at 9 o'clock, don't come at all.
Ooh.
Weh. I was like, this mama does not know what I've been through to actually get here. I don't have a car.
Yeah.
I live so far. And I used to I'd take a 126 to Ngong, then take a 111 to Dagoretti, then walk Kingara Road, down
Kingara Road,
up the hill.
I can't even do that properly in a car. But let me ask you
I can't do it now. I can't do it now. It's a lie. But I mean, it used to take so much to get to work.
Yeah.
And I was like, why is she not understanding where I'm coming from? I'm a young girl. I still live at home. But she also did say, leave early.
Okay.
That's really it.
Yeah.
If you know it takes this amount of time to get to your place of work, leave an hour early or leave 2 hours early. You'd rather come and spend the extra time here than to be spending it on the road. And then you come and tell me, oh, you know, traffic. She's like, no, there's no excuse.
Yeah.
And I love it. I you know, when you're young, then you're just thinking, okay, this mama is so unfair. But when you think about it now, she actually taught me a very, very valuable lesson.
Yes.
You'd rather be there earlier than the time you're expected.
Yeah.
Then you can relax. You don't have to rush into anything. So did KISS internship. And then one time, because I used to type out everything while I'm not even going to lie to you. I used to type out KISS 100 Nairobi's #1 hit music station. Sanaipei Tande, my own name.
You still...
Because I was like, I might forget my name. So I used to type out everything. Mariah Carey coming up. And I used to do my prep. What has Mariah done? What has Michael Jackson done? And so this one day I decided I'm just going to go raw.
Okay.
The link is there. Go.
And
I completely lost my train of thought. I lost it. I didn't even know what the hell I was talking about. And then I said the F word.
Oh,
Yes. And then I played the next song. And the first person who called me was Eve D'Souza. And she said, Mama, what did you just say on air? You know?
oh my
But
word.
then after that, because I was like, I was so sure I was fired. I
Okay.
was so sure I was fired. And then Caroline asked to see me after the show. And I was like, Bas, that's it. Nimepoteza hii kazi. And I go into her office. At that time, she was still on the third floor with us. Her office was in the corner. And she said, I took a risk on you, Sana. You know how she talks.
Yes, yes.
And, you've proven me right. So congratulations. And she got me a bag. She'd gotten me some JLo shades and a Burberry scarf. And then it was
Wow.
it was nearing Christmas. So she
Yeah.
gave me the gift. And I was ecstatic. I was like, my God, I have been accepted into Kiss 100. This is big.
Yeah.
So that was radio, did that for 5 years. I started off as keeping it Kenyan. And then I went into entertainment news for Kiss and then eventually for XFM. And then I got into mid-morning. So it would be Caroline Motoko, then myself after Angela left, and then into Shafi and Kaleche. And then sometimes I would have to stand in
Okay.
for, like, if Kaleche would have gone on leave, I'd have to sit him with Shafi. And Shafi has no breaks. Like him, he talks off the bat.
I think we all know this.
Yeah. And you're like, this is your show.
Yeah.
You automatically know 4 to 5, I do this, 5 to 6, I do this. The same way I would know 10 to 11, I do this and that and that. You don't have to think about it. So I used to tell him, give me a moment, let me type. But Kaleche had this very nice template of the different hours of the show. And she would send it to me and she would edit it and say, so this is what we do in this hour. And so that really helped.
Okay.
So did that for, I joined them 20, because I did about 5 to 6 years at Kiss. And in 2012, March 22nd, which was actually my birthday, I said, I'm done.
Okay.
And I resigned, and that was that. I mean, it was more, I spend so much time here.
Yeah.
I do Monday to Friday, 10 to 3, 10 to 3. And the policy at Radio Africa is you have to get to work an hour before to do your prep. And so that means 9 o'clock to 3.
Yeah.
Yani basically, you can wake up, you can shower, have your breakfast, go for a meeting, have your lunch. Sana is still there. Kiss 100, Nairobi's number one hit music station.
Wow.
So it took a toll. And then into Saturday or Sunday, I'd do a show as well. The money wasn't making sense for me. I spent 3/4 of my day here. This money is not helping me live my life. So I quit.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And I remember being asked, if you quit this job, then you lose all the perks. And I'm like, but I was Sanaipei Tande before I came here.
Right.
You hired me because I am who I am.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to lose any perks. And I didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, being that I worked with you for a little bit at Radio Africa, I mean, it was pretty sad. I think I'd already left by that time, though, although it was really sad not to hear you on radio anymore. But it was nice when you hopped on over to Nation and we could hear you again.
Yes, indeed.
Now, let's talk about something that I'm very curious about, which is your experience with contractual relationships, friendships, specifically your experience with Sema, because there's a reason why you only lasted 6 months. Yeah. So how did it start and how did it end?
The unfortunate thing is we were not very familiar with contracts at the time and what they meant and what clauses meant. It was, we won a competition. Homeboys are going to take over as our managers. And that was that. Maybe there was a contract. I have no recollection of what it said. I just know that if we did gigs, there would be a percentage that would go to the managers and there would be a percentage that goes to Sema.
Right.
It's rather unfortunate to say that I had no idea what the percentage was supposed to be like.
Yeah.
And what gigs we were paid for, what gigs we were not paid for. We could have been told these guys haven't paid for your gig, and maybe they had. I don't know. We were very young into a very new industry. And I think just enjoying the moment without really thinking about what the business stands for.
So we're talking about you, Pam, and Kevin. And
yes.
had you met, were you friends before, Coca-Cola Popstars, or were you just sort of put together?
put together.
Okay.
Like absolutely no idea who this person is, where they come from, how they were brought up, nothing. It was come and audition, and we're looking for a group.
Okay.
So there are people who came and auditioned as groups, hoping that they would all go through.
Yeah.
But then the judges were very individualistic in terms of how they were judging. And then, so eventually we all won and were put together.
Okay.
I had never met Pam. I'd never met Kevin. Zero, like zero understanding of who they were. And I think even when we were auditioning in Mombasa, because we did the auditions here in Nairobi and then were shortlisted.
Yeah.
And then we had a top 15, Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania. Even then, I cannot tell you that we interacted.
Okay. So you're not friends. You're young. We're talking, you're what, 19, 18 at that time? Okay. And then you're having to deal with contracts that you probably don't even, I mean, there's a lot of 30, 40-year-olds who don't know what a good or bad contract looks
That's
like.
true.
So at that age,
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot that you're going through.
It is. And I think also it was new for our parents.
Yeah.
We also come from a generation whose parents are very trusting.
Yeah.
They first of all are being brought into this media world, and they don't know how things work in the media, and they're hoping and praying that these people who've taken charge of their children are honest people who are going to be very open and transparent about the things that they're told in the contract in etc. So I wouldn't like to fault our parents in not being that conversant with the contract, if there was one. Please let me just be honest, because I also don't know.
Okay.
And just being at the forefront of understanding, what does this mean? Okay, so they are going here. How much are they making? Da, 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 da. We also had our parents were not fussy people.
Okay.
They took it in stride. My child has won this competition. Homeboys are the managers, and I'm sure they'll take good care of them. They were not very intrusive, like, Ati, how much are they making? And where are they going to go? And where are they sleeping? And whatever. I mean, they were concerned as parents, but they didn't get too involved, which is understandable. See, today, if you're a parent,
yes,
and your child at TCG has won a competition in Chicago, you're just like, I'm coming. Me, I will be there sleeping in the same room with my child. But back then, it was kind of different.
Okay.
I think the only time that they really got involved is when now the group was splitting up.
6 months later.
6 months later, and we had this air quotes bishop agreketeke somebody. I don't know whether you remember that time. Pulse did a whole double spread on him.
Right.
Bishop from the Netherlands who had come to rehabilitate prostitutes.
I remember that, yes.
You remember?
Yes.
And he had a church at 680.
Yes.
And he would have all these artists go and perform there. And we did perform there and was paying really good money, at least from what we were told. But then he eventually wanted the group. He wanted Sema and was trying to get us to go to the Netherlands. But he was, breaking the relationship between us and our managers. And he actually did. I remember him telling me, contracts are there to be bought.
Right.
Like, you don't know me and rules. I can never. If my managers are homeboys and they've not given me the go-ahead, I am not going to do anything with you. So I think that was the one time that our parents stepped in, because they were like, what's happening? Not the whole point, but the point of this job, is for these children to prosper and earn a living through their music and through their art. So when somebody is offering them that, why are you refusing? And I'm not saying this was the general consensus. It was certain parents felt that there's nothing wrong with this guy coming in to take the group. So of course, me and my folks were just like, you guys have joked. Us guys are okay, we're fine, we're not moving.
Yeah.
And so, he took the group to the Netherlands, Pam and Kevin. I refused to go. I was just like, if Homeboys is not on board, my parents are not on board, there's no way I'm going to go at here. I'm an individual, I'm a responsible adult or whatever. So I didn't go for the trip.
Okay.
And so that was a time that I felt our parents actually came into play. We were called for a meeting like we're in high school, I swear. It was, you're thinking you're done with high school, you're an adult now, where we were put in a boardroom with a microbar.
Oh.
I was just looking down like this. I was just like, how do I explain some of these things to my parents?
And this is as a consequence of going on the trip, because they felt like it was a contractual violation. Okay.
Yeah. So I can tell you from then I understood that contracts have meaning.
Okay.
if they're there.
Yeah.
And you must really, really fully understand every single clause because it's law and law has loopholes. If you
Yes.
don't see them, you're in trouble. So
Mm-hmm.
consult a lawyer at every point of your life. If you're given a contract, it doesn't matter. It's 1 page, it's 17 pages, consult.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So what happened in that boardroom?
Where? Me, half the time I was looking down, first of all.
Okay.
But people raised their voices. They said how they have rights. And, at the end of the day, it's all about making money. If this guy is offering us more money, why not?
Mm-hmm.
And that was it. And I remember somebody's parent, I'm not going to say whose parent, actually walked to my dad because I had a conversation with my dad before we went for this meeting. And I explained everything to him, including relationships that should not have been or that were.
Okay.
And that he shouldn't think that I'm being favored or whatever. I'm not
Okay.
even going to get into the detail of that. But
Wait, but just one question regarding that: being favored by the homeboys, not by the pastor. Okay.
yeah.
All right.
So I did have this conversation with my dad before we left for the meeting. I gave him everything.
Okay.
So by the time we got there, he was already in the clear of knowing what's happening.
Okay.
So guys vibed. People apparently had documents saying this money apparently was paid and we've not been paid. Me atasiko sijui,
Yeah.
and I think that was very ignorant of me, but I was young and I was trusting and can't catch me like that today.
Okay.
And so we finished and one of the parents walked up to my dad and asked, Mr. Tande, you didn't say anything in the meeting. He's like, no, because and my daughter have discussed, we're in the clear.
Okay.
Us guys are good. And everything that I've had in the meeting, she has
Yeah.
told me. So
Okay.
that's fine. Yeah.
All right. And that was the end of that.
That was the end of that. And Sema broke.
Okay.
Hmm?
Then you went on to establish a solo career. Do you know if Pam and Kevin did they continue as Sema? Did they pursue individual careers?
I mean, obviously they couldn't have continued as Sema because I think that was all under Homeboys. Even
Yeah.
the name that we came up with was, what do you say, copywritten or
Okay.
whatever.
Yeah.
But I know Pam went on to do quite a number of solo songs.
Yes.
She's a very soulful person. And I think you can see that in the album when you listen to Mwewe.
Mm-hmm.
The songs that Pam wrote are very soulful. The songs that I wrote are very Swahili-like. And Kevin is just your neo-soul kind of guy.
All right.
So she went on to do a couple of songs. Kevin, I'm not so sure.
Okay.
I don't think he released anything of his own.
Mm-hmm.
And then that was that.
Okay. Well, it's very sad because that was such a promising group, and we were all so proud of you when you first came out.
It was. It was
Yeah.
a good group, and I think we were ahead of our time in terms of how we were writing, how we were performing. But I can't sit here and say I have regrets.
Okay.
I can't. I look at the direction that my career took and the things that I've managed to do, the songs that I've managed to release, being my own boss.
Yeah.
Not having to consult with anyone, and I think I kind of prefer it that way.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now when you look at a contract, I mean, I assume the fact that you learned how important a contract is during that period.
Yes.
Have there been times when you've nearly been bamboozled, or have you always learned to be always careful about scrutinizing each piece of paper that you have to sign?
I'm very careful.
Okay.
Extremely careful. I now have a lawyer I can consult. My other lawyer is my dad, who's not a lawyer.
Okay.
But, because he has an understanding of these things, I usually take 2 copies.
Okay.
And I give him one and I give my lawyer one. And they go through it. Like I remember the time that I was supposed to go back to Radio Africa. I wasn't quite happy with the contract. And this time I was still living at home. I'd moved back. And I remember waking up really early and my dad's light was on at like 5 o'clock in the morning. And then he came out with the contract and he said, so I've read this. He was reading in the morning and he said, I cannot tell you what to do. You're a grown-up. These are your decisions. But I don't agree with this clause and this clause and this clause because this will lock you and this will do this and this will do that, which is something you need. You as an individual, you can't fully understand everything. There are certain black areas that somebody might be able to notice that you don't see. And so it's very important to consult. So I get that from my dad and I get that from my lawyer. So I'm very careful with anything that I sign, unless it's very straightforward.
Right.
We want you to come host karaoke here. This is what we're paying you. You should be here at this time. Very straightforward. But when it comes to legalities, just ask.
Yeah.
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 You're not a lawyer. You didn't do law. Just ask.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with asking.
This is true. Now, you and your dad are really close, because you've like consistently mentioned
I keep
it.
telling myself, don't do that, don't do that. But yes, they are very, my family is very prominent
Mhm.
in my life and in my
Okay.
decisions and in my thinking, in how I deal with people.
Mhm.
They've always been there. You know, they've got my back 24/7. Even when I go wrong,
Yeah.
it's never, no, Nasasa,
Yeah.
we told you, it's, I have no recollection of such kind of conversations.
Okay.
It's, um, it will start with, mommy, when we talked about it's a conversation.
Right.
You're not being put down even when you do wrong and you know you've done wrong and they can see that you know you've done wrong. It's not best to kick you when you're down.
Yeah.
Just bring the person back up and have that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
So there are situations where and which is why I used to advocate for people to always, respect your family, take them seriously, and whatever they tell you should do. But there are people, unfortunately, who don't come from families like that. There are
Mm-hmm.
people who have family members who are always trying to use them and abuse them
Yeah.
and put them down all the time. They're never happy for what they do. Now, I always say gauge the situation. If the
Mm-hmm.
advice you've been given by your parents or your family members has worked for you, then you know those
Then do
people are
it.
genuine.
Yes.
So I can't blindly sit here and tell you, they're your parents. You must listen to your parents. Some parents don't have the best interest in their
Mm-hmm.
hearts.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, everything that I've been advised, and trust me, I've been advised quite a number of times,
Yeah.
has worked for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I as old as I am, I'm able to sit down and gauge and say, everything that these guys have actually advised me to do or have talked to me about has turned out to be the best for me. So I
Right.
trust them and I trust them with everything, every fabric of my living.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
And how many family members are these that we're talking about?
There's dad, mom, brother, sister.
Okay.
Well, brother, me.
Okay.
That's about it. So we're a very close knit family.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, like I can tell you, even with building my house,
Yeah.
it was my brother who actually told me, Wewe,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
you need to build.
Oh.
Imagine.
Okay.
And whatever monies I had, I sent everything
Uh-huh.
to him. And
Wow.
isimamiad the mjengo.
Okay.
And I have been in situations where I've heard people say, hey, me, my brother, never, 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 never. I'll never see that money again. But my brother is different.
Yeah.
So he's actually the one who told me you must set yourself in a good place so that in the future you're able to decide what you want to do and what you don't want to do.
Mm-hmm.
When you're in a situation where you're still, for example, paying rent,
Yeah.
there are certain things that you will end up having to do that you don't want to do, but you have to do them because where's the money going to come from? So you
Yeah.
end up taking jobs that compromise on you as a person and
Yeah.
your character, and because you have to earn the money.
Yeah.
So he told me, set yourself up
Yeah.
very early.
When
And
you're
I did.
early. Yeah.
Mm.
Wow, that is such a useful piece of advice. I wish your brother was my brother and he would have told me this when I was in my early 20s. But here we are.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you so much for your time and for such an entertaining conversation.
You're not telling me we're done. I'm ready. Let's keep going.
Maybe we'll do a part two at
We
some
might.
point, in the future. But in the meantime, I want to say thank you so much for being so candid with your story and for taking the time to share it with us,
Thank you.
And we will see you all next week for another one just like this one.